Now that we are here in August, we can safely say that July of 2024 was the busiest month we've had on the island in the real estate market in a year and almost a half. In today's video, I'm going to quickly wrap up what happened in the month of July, how I'm looking at things a little bit differently this month, and letting you know exactly what I think is coming over the next couple months because it's going to be a ride. Buckle up. The first thing on most people's minds is always interest rates. Beyond prices, interest rates are the one thing that can change somewhat quickly. Prices take a very, very long time to do so, whether it's up or materially down. Those rates did come down over the month of July, and they came down a good bit, comfortably under 7. And here we are in August, and they're down even further. So it's looking likely that things are going to improve on that front. I'll get to that at the end of this in more detail, but good news is that mortgage rates did come down in July substantially. Inventory-wise is down big time since July 1st, and that is abnormal. That is the biggest decrease I have seen since we begun tracking it. Normally, we see a decrease, maybe double digits, in January when a lot of things fall off on the end of the year, when things expire, when homes are no longer for sale. But beyond that, we've never seen something quite like this over the past 5 years since I've been doing this. And that is a little bit alarming. If you counteract that with why prices are now going back up, right? They've been consistently stable, stably increasing, I'll say, for condos. Single families did go negative a little bit there, and now comfortably positive again. A lot of that has to do with the fact that there's nothing for sale. If somebody really wants to buy a home here in Ocean City, those choices are fairly limited. Depending on how long you've been paying attention, you might have now come to think that a number in the 200s is normal, right? In Ocean City, that's what we've seen the last 4 years, somewhere between 150 and 300 homes. Before 2020, the norm was between 400 and 600 homes in any given year at any point in time. In the face of all of that, prices did rise during that time, but not quite to the degree that they have lately. And that's a big reason why. Again, yes, some demand has gone away because people simply can't afford to buy here. It doesn't make any sense for them. They've moved on. They've moved on of the dream of owning a home here in Ocean City. And I hate to say that I understand it, but I certainly do. It's a big ticket item. Whereas in the past, if you were looking 10 years ago, maybe it didn't feel that bad. Now it's brutal. So with that aside, let's get into exactly what changed here. So this month, again, we had a nice decrease from June, almost a 0.5% down in mortgage rates. We had inventory drop 17%. And despite that, our condo and single family sale to list prices stayed pretty much flat. If we want to compare that to last July, all the way on that right-hand side, again, mortgage rates are about a quarter point less. Our inventory is slightly higher, but basically the same. And those percentages are once again very stable. Now, again, these percentages, I'm never going to say that 1% is a massive deal. Obviously, if you're talking about a multi-million-dollar home, 1% is a big deal. But as long as these are not skewing or, multiple percentage points off of where they were in the past, it's not something that I'm going to be too concerned about either way. Now, new listings took a freaking nosedive in July, and that was not expected. July, you do usually see a reduction, but this was a drastic reduction, to the point of really outside of our Decembers. If you want to track this chart, you can pause and check it out. All of those big dips were Decembers. And outside of that, this is the biggest one really since COVID, since the month hit way back in April of 2020. New listings really barely existed in July, which really kept things very, very tight. Now, in the face of all of that, right, fewer listings coming, we had our strongest month in a long time, since March of 2023. We had over 60 homes go under contract, when we're basically averaging about 45, 47 per month so far this year. This was a huge boon. And again, it's not hard to see that blue bar all the way to the right, all the way back. The next one you see that's close is March, and then before that, the March in 2022. So for this to happen in July is just abnormal for sure. Closed sales, strong month, solid month. Again, lagging indicator, I said all the time, we don't pay too much attention to that. Now, in the single family world, the months of inventory is definitely coming back down, as that inventory is coming back down and more single family homes are going under contract. Some of those big new construction ones, particularly, but a lot of those did come off in August, and I'll get to that in the next video as to what's happening going forward, because again, I don't expect it to stay exactly the same. median sale price. Now, I wanted to take a step back here because now that some of the volumes are very, very small, particularly in the single family world, where we're having roughly 10, maybe less, maybe a little bit more closing in a given month, I wanted to check to make sure that these were still sound metrics that I developed and started using all those years ago. And instead of the median, which I decided back then was the right way to go, I wanted to check it against the mean. And I didn't include the graph here. I'm not going to include it in next month because short version is the pattern was essentially the same. The magnitude, right? The price point on that left-hand side was different. But that's not really what I'm concerned about here, right? The average price point does not dictate what homes are out there on the market. It does not dictate your budget. It doesn't dictate a whole lot of anything, right? These charts are to help you visualize and to help me explain what's happening, the trends that are developing. Are things getting stronger, getting weaker, picking up, slowing down? And this was almost, if I were to overlay them, it was almost identical. So gave me confidence once again that even with smaller volumes of homes selling than when I decided to go this route with median statistics, still very much in line with what we should have expected. So big bump. And there's going to be even a bigger one in August. So a lot of these higher priced homes are going. And as I'm living through right now, there's not a lot of appetite for these sub-$1 million homes unless it's a developer, right? Buyers say that the space is too small, it's not in the optimal location, whatever it might be. And there's a disconnect between the availability of these $1 million and less homes and what you actually get in that price point. Because I think even if, my own home that I'm selling at 213 Victoria Lane, even if I were to knock a good chunk off of that price, it's not going to change the feedback from all the showings except for one that we've had so far. It's just the space is too small. That was it. I can't really change that. The price doesn't change that. So it's interesting to see, people kind of want to have it both ways. No offense to anybody, because again, I get it, right? I lived in that house for 4 years. I ended up in a bigger house for that exact reason. Not saying that those aren't facts, they are. But at the same time, as long as developers can purchase smaller homes and people are willing to pay multi-millions of dollars for a nice, big, large home, then that price point's going to go away entirely. Right? There's going to be a whole sector of the market that's just gone. So as much as I had felt very good about the price points for single family homes staying around 1.6-ish, maybe to 1.7, we're skyrocketing again in a hurry because a lot of those smaller homes just are disappearing again, and we're left with the big ones now. Now, days on market is falling, which makes sense, right? As the months of inventory declines, people are moving a little bit faster than they would have in the past. Now for the condos, very, very strong consistently. Again, this is as dependable as it gets, the Ocean City condo market, where we're flattening out on prices, which is all fine. Seeing that some of these are going for the prices they're still going for is mind-blowing to me, where we're now essentially pushing $900,000 for a 3-bedroom on West Avenue. 4 bedrooms, you're really not getting anything for under $1.2 million, maybe $1.3 million. Very, very different than the numbers that were out there a year ago. And it's almost regardless of age of home. It's just the fact that if you want that traditional layout that everybody is so used to, right? A 3-bed, 4-bed, whatever it may be, there's the normal layout, and then there's the kind of quirky ones that aren't quite the same. And you have this nostalgic attachment to, I rented in a unit like this, or my parents owned or grandparents owned a unit that felt like this. People want that. And there's not a lot out there that are in a normal arrangement, but when they do, they go quick. And that's why these prices were continuing such strong growth in the past and will continue going forward. There's just a complete lack of supply. Days on market, again, very, very stable here. If you want to look at it as increasing, that's totally fine. But I would argue that back in 2022, that was an unhealthy market. That was way too seller friendly. Buyers were having to give away their firstborn child and their kidney and maybe something else just to have a shot. So we're getting back to healthy territory here, which is a good thing. Now, speed. This was the fastest month that I have recorded outside of one, which was back in December of 2020. And that was strictly back then due to a complete lack of listings and an abnormally strong amount that went under contract that month. This one is about the same story, right? We had very few listings. We had less than expected, and we also had more than expected go under contract. So very, very fast moving month. Good properties moved quickly, and they're continuing in that direction and very, very stable after we had some bumps over the last few years. Our speed is about locked in right around that 1.75 mark, which is a good thing. Now, mortgage rates, what do we expect going forward? So mortgage rates are likely, in my opinion, to continue coming down a little bit more. As I sit here in August, the market's gotten a little bit weird. And again, make sure you stay tuned for the next video coming to explain that. But I do expect rates to be cut in September. I expect the Fed to do that and maybe one more. But September, betting markets are betting very heavily on that. It's looking likely that there's going to be a quarter point decrease in the prime rate. There had been some talk about 0.5%. I think that was a reaction to the carry trade. And, these words may make no sense to you, and it's fine. You don't have to go digging to that depth to understand why things happen. But the stock market had a blip, right? Big decrease over a few days due to a carry trade unraveling with Japanese currency against the US dollar. Once that kind of cleared out, stock market kept right on going the way that it had been. And during that little downturn, there was a lot of doom and gloom of what's going to come, how much the Fed, screwed up again, and they waited too long to cut rates. I think that was a little overblown. But I do expect rates to get cut in September. It's kind of baked into mortgage rates already. So I don't want you to hear that and think, great, I'm going to wait till September and then mortgage rates are going to come down by whatever amount. Those are baked into the prices right now, into the mortgage rates. So if it does happen, they should stay roughly unchanged. If it doesn't happen, mortgage rates are actually likely to go up. So don't let that stop you from acting now if you find something that you do like. But there's a chance that if there are more cuts in 2024 and 2025, they may come back down a little bit. But given everything that we've seen here, right, inventory decreasing when it normally does, but not quite to this amount. The strength and the speed of the market, as I've explained multiple different ways, I would not expect prices to stay where they are. If rates continue to come back down and prices are growing anyway, they're likely to grow a little bit more, right? There's going to be people who have bigger budgets. More buyers are going to be able to enter the market at various price points. So it's a break for you as a buyer, but it's also competition for you as a buyer, which makes it a little bit harder. So it'll be very, very smart coming up. But ultimately, like I would say 80% of buyers that I work with, it ultimately does come down to the home, right? There's a budget, there's a monthly payment, comfortability, there's all this stuff that gets baked in. But at the end of the day, if we're able to find the right home, that number may change a little bit. And that's not through pushing into a different price point. That's not through any of that. It's just a factor of what people want. And if you find what you want, you understand that you haven't seen one in the 2 years you've been looking, we may not see another one for another few years. Sometimes you just have to pony up and do what you have to do. I can't convince you to do that. I'm never going to try to convince you to do that. But hopefully through the context that you get through these videos and everything that I put out here, that you're able to make that decision confidently, whichever direction, whether it's to pass or to jump. It's wholly up to you. That's my whole job here. So what do I expect coming over the next couple months is going to be interesting. Now in August, again, we have a little bit of a head start here based off of when I'm making this video a little later than usual to see what has happened so far in August. And I'm not going to give you all the dirty details, but in short, we went from a very fast month and a strong month in July to a very weird one in August. It may be because people are waiting for rates to, stabilize, come down more. I'm not entirely sure, but it's definitely gotten a little bit weird in August. I expect it to stay weird for another month or so before we see our usual deal season coming up in October, November, December. That's the most fun time of the year. If you're buying, if you're selling, it's not, because you want to move on before the end of the year. You don't want to wait until the spring market rolls around again. So it could be a tedious time depending on which side of the fence you are on. But from a buying standpoint, if you don't find anything soon, it may be worth waiting and keeping an eye until we get deeper into the fall. Now, please don't hear that and think, I'm going to do nothing until then. I highly recommend engaging with me or whoever your agent is of choice sooner than later, because during deal season, speed matters. That's a huge differentiator. You need to be ready. You need to be prepared. You need to have the context in your own brain when I or somebody sends you the property to have the ability to comprehend if it's a good deal or not, right? Based off of everything you've seen, based off the education you've gone through or hopefully going through now, you need to be prepared. So start now. Don't wait. You start now by having a conversation with a realtor here specifically who lives on the island in Ocean City. I haven't said that in a while, but it's about time I repeat that, because that block by block difference matters. Somebody who lives, breathes, eats, sleeps this stuff on the island it matters. It makes a big difference. So definitely find yourself a local agent. Again, I'm happy to help you. I have a team with me in case I can't take on any more clients because I only have so much capacity, but we're all here. We're happy to help. So feel free to reach out any of the ways that you see down below. We are happy to assist, happy to talk you through it, help you get ready for what's coming for deal season, and whatever you need help with. Again, if we're not the ones who can handle it for you, we definitely have the connections to help you get it done. So hopefully you enjoyed this. I appreciate you as always hanging out with me today. If you haven't already, make sure you hit subscribe down below because there's going to be a whole lot more actually coming going forward. I'll explain that in the coming weeks. There's going to be a big change on my end in terms of how I operate. So looking forward to sharing that with you guys. Take it easy. I'll see you next time.